are destined to repeat it. Is that what is happening in Bangladesh? What we are seeing now play out seems eerily reminiscent of what played out in 1971. And in that time and now, the administration in the United States turned a blind eye. And I'm going to show you by way of references and a narrative what really happened in 1971 and how I see dire parallels to what is playing out today in Bangladesh. Is Hindu Desh the only way out? Well, we will discuss that. I'm very happy to see that the word Hindu Desh is now beginning to get traction. Many channels are starting to use it. I'm very happy that what we initiated is now beginning to pick up momentum. So here is a slide deck that I would like to share with you. I want to walk you through what led up to the 1971 genocide and also how things are now playing out. A small request to all of you to like this video, and if you have not already subscribed to our channel, kindly subscribe to our channel. Here we go. Calls are increasing for a separate Hindu Desh. Following the arrest of the ex-ISKCON leader, the calls have started raising. Now, I've already played a couple of videos where members of parliament in the United Kingdom, as well as many top leaders in the United States, have openly expressed concerns about what is happening to Hindus in Bangladesh. While this so-called the so-called Yunus seem to be acting similar now. It just seems powerless, and I don't know if he even knows how to govern. You take a banker, give him a Nobel Prize, and then put him in a place of power and say that we will back you, only you back out, and somebody else starts filling in the vacuum. Is that what is happening in Bangladesh? Here we look at what is going on. Initially, it started out saying that Sheikh Hasina government was corrupt and that she had essentially done something wrong. And the irony is, many Hindus at that time supported the act of students to overthrow Sheikh Hasina. Now they themselves are facing the chin music. They are also being attacked. You know that Singer house has been completely vandalized. He had some very, very old instruments, all those things up in flames. These people don't understand anything about humanity. I'll summary at the end as to what I see is happening and what needs to happen in the time to come. The Hindus in Bangladesh are getting persecuted more so in the area of Chittagong or Chattogram. This is where it appears to be at the most ferocious. And see, these are all things where somebody has identified, the ex-ISKCON preacher is beginning to become the voice of Hindus. Therefore, let us try and stifle that. And then we will see what these people do. Isn't this what was attempted in 1971? Well, I'm going to take you back down memory lane as to what happened in 1970 elections. The only one where proper elections were held in the Pakistan of West and East Pakistan, and what played out after that. There are systematic attempts to marginalize the Hindu population in Bangladesh. You saw how many professors, government officials being asked to, or in fact, I should say, forced to resign while they were trying to discharge their duties, and this has gone unchecked. What the heck is Yunus government doing? If you can't do anything, then why did you assume power? Who's your granddaddy? We've already told you, viewers, with General Rajiv Narayanan as to how he helped launder $90 billion of US senators, politicians' money in Bangladesh. Currently, Bangladesh appears to be inching closer to Pakistan. And why I say that, I'll tell you. In 1971 Liberation War, over 3,800 soldiers died. And you know that 93,000 Pakistani soldiers were taken prisoners of war, and they were fed for, I think, 18 months, if I remember correct, because the Shimla Agreement was in 1972. And for that time, they were well fed, they dined on India's hospitality. And the irony is, the Indian prisoners of war who were taken prisoners in West Pakistan never returned. Nobody even knows what happened of them. and India just returned the 93,000. No strings attached. I don't understand why this kind of a boneheaded decision was made by Indira Gandhi. In fact, I have spoken to the person who was handling security of this entire convention, and he said that till the last night there was the talks were going on, no agreement was in place, everybody was getting ready to go to their respective towns and cities, including Bhutto. He was going to return empty handed to Pakistan. And at 9 p.m. suddenly there was a call from the office of the Prime Minister. I think P.N. Haksar was the person who was doing all this. He himself is a Kashmiri Pandit. He should know a little bit more about his own history. The way this whole thing got messed up, they could have easily demanded the entire area of Pakistan occupied Kashmir in exchange for the 93,000 soldiers. The reason given was that, oh, there were many East Pakistan government officials stuck in West Pakistan and their lives are in danger if we don't free these 93,000 people. What about all the efforts India put in? Why did India not extract its pound of flesh from here? Because this frustration is growing. Because I, as a kid, remember paying for every damn thing we bought in the market. You have to pay an extra 5 paisa for Bangladesh relief fund. 10 million refugees came to India. None of them went back. None of them went back. So how did the world come to know of the atrocities that were being committed in Bangladesh, or that time East Pakistan? Well, there was a Sunday Times front page story titled Genocide that hit in 1970. If I remember correctly, it was sometime, no, I'm sorry, it was in 1971. I'll come to the details in just 1 second. This is a picture of the intrepid reporter who was a Pakistani, West Pakistani. He was sent as part of a 10-person journalist delegation to East Pakistan to show how Pakistan was maintaining law and order and that it was having the entire place under control. Anthony Mascarenhas, he witnessed this under his own eyes. 10 days he spent there, and I have read that report. That is the first link in our description section. I urge all of you to read it, because if you don't read it, you will not understand the pain and suffering of so many innocent people who died, how they were spotted, how they were ratted out by others, how they tried to save what little they had, and how they were made to run in fields, and then sometimes even set on fire, and people watched, the soldiers watched as they burned to their death. So what happened? On December 7th, 1970, the West and East Pakistan finally went to elections, and the results stunned the West Pakistan. 313 seats in the National Assembly was what was in fight. There were 13 nominated. The 300 were the elected ones, so 151 seats were required for majority. The number of people who registered to vote was 56,941,500. That's close to, I would say, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the population was around, trying to 6 crores. 6 crores were the electorate in 1970, I should say, and about 57.96% was the turnout. For Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, he swept the elections in East Pakistan, and he ended up with 167 seats. He was the face of the Awami League, and the amount of votes they got was about 13 million or 1.3 crore, and the percentage, as a percentage, came to about 39%. And the Pakistani People's Party, that was led by Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, was they won only 86 seats. And this was the crux of the problem, because the West Pakistan, that is Yahya Khan and Bhutto, they were not willing to accept Sheikh Mujibur Rahman as their prime minister. It's as simple as that. Some of the wording here is so weird. I'm telling you, these people are lost their mind. And because what is happening is, much of this history is being sanitized, everything getting wiped out on the web. So people think as if nothing happened. That tells you that somebody is at work diligently erasing the horrible role of the Pakistani army in East Pakistan, which is why I'm doing this thing bit by bit, brick by brick, explaining to you what really happened. So, because they won 167 seats, the 7 were nominated seats. All of them, of course, also were won by Awami League. The other 6 were for the West Pakistan. So, it was expected that Sheikh Mujibur Rahman would form the government. But the military ruler Yahya Khan refused to hand power over. That escalated tensions. Then Rahman was arrested, and this basically dashed hopes of a democratic transition. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, which came second, supported Khan's crackdown in East Pakistan. Basically, they felt that the West was superior. These people hated the fact that the East Pakistan or East Pakistanis were refusing to accept Urdu as their official language. They had more pride in their language, Bengali, and this infuriated the West, which felt that they were members of a martial race, a term used by the British to try and keep them feel as if these guys were special. I mean, some of the Sikhs also had the same thing, that, oh, we are part of a martial race. I mean, you were taller than everybody else. That doesn't mean that you are something special. Everybody's DNA was the same. So all these things are ruses and methods used by the British to try and keep India divided. Unfortunately, many fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. So initially, Awami League started with a civil disobedience campaign, and that led slowly to military suppression and this conflicts or attacks on non-Bengalis, particularly Urdu-speaking migrants from Bihar. This was the first group that was attacked because they were not speaking Bengali. I mean, there was this place called 𝗒𝘁 Bihar, you know that, right? That was a kingdom, and around that there were a lot of Urdu-speaking Muslims. They were Muslims still, and they were the first ones to get attacked. And slowly but steadily, this thing, the civil disobedience movement, turned into a liberation war, and there was the Mukti Bahini, liberating army, as well as the Awami League. They were the ones who were for independence, and there were some lumpens who were supporting the East Pakistani forces. And what ended up happening in March of 1971 was beyond words, beyond words. In the Pakistani army launched what is called as Operation Searchlight. This was done to suppress the mutiny and to try and completely squish out the Awami League, which was the one that was in the front of this agitation. Mukti Bahini was something that was a force, an army that was believed to have been trained by India also to try and stand up to the atrocities of the East Pakistani army. Because West Pakistan, East Pakistan, the army was the same. In fact, some troops, local troops, are believed to have deserted the Pakistani army and joined with the Mukti Bahini. So it wasn't like Mukti Bahini was created from scratch. There were some who had actually been army people. What happened after that was something that was just terrible to explain in words. You know, there were villages where somebody would go and mark who were the Hindus by writing H in the front door, and then the troops would come the next day systematically seeking every person out. The women were not spared, they were raped. There were instances where thousands of women raped and mutilated, killed. Some of their breasts were cut off, and everybody piled up, thrown into a well. And when the when the liberating forces of Indian Army came in December 1971, they could see these slashes. It was horrible. There were some which was as recent as 10-15 days before that. So this killing continued for close to 8 to 9 months. Can you imagine how many people died? At least 10 million refugees came into India. None of them have come back still now. Now, what happened was the West Pakistani army wanted to show that no, everything is fine, the order is being restored in East Pakistan. So they selected 10 journalists, they brought them over to the East Pakistan to show and let them see for themselves. The intention was to discredit the Awami League and say that these people were basically some sort of miscreants that need to be put in their place. The 10-day tour that Anthony Mascarenhas saw was so hard on him. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. And if you read that first link I told you, right, every story is captured in vivid detail, how they were catching people. I mean, this is not just Hindus. There were a lot of Muslims also who were killed. And I'll tell you also what happened in the United States consulate building in Dhaka, and how the Nixon administration completely ignored it. I'll tell you all that also as this thing comes along. The initial violence was on the 25th of March, and it saw Bengali troops and paramilitary units massacre non-Bengalis, including Muslim refugees from Bihar. Subsequent systematic massacres were carried out by the West Pakistan Army, targeting Hindus, Bengali Muslims, and rebels. Rebels being the Awami League members, as well as some people who they were deemed to be seen as being part of this movement. The non-Bengali Muslims faced massacres with atrocities like rape, mutilation, and child murders, leaving 20,000 to 100,000 dead. Pak forces began systematic killings after March 26 to suppress the independence movement. The targets were Hindus, university students, teachers. So intellectuals were being finished off. That's the point. Awami League members, left-wing activists. Even this time, the Awami League members, some offices of the Awami League party, they were attacked. Some of them were even set on fire. So they know who they are targeting. This has all the fingerprints of ISI on it. As to why Yunus is allowing it, as to why the American government, these bozos and clowns that occupy the Department of State are allowing this, I cannot fathom. Unfortunately, this kind of a narrative was not done in 1971, except for that one story. And I'll tell you the impact that story of Mascarenhas had on the then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi in just a few slides from now. Now, refugees were fleeing to India in the millions. The total number was 10.1 million, like I said. They came to West Bengal. They also came to Assam. Many of them have not, in fact, none of them have returned. A few here and there are being returned now, that too from Assam, because of the NRC being in place. The statements of the captured officers say that up to 2 million people were allowed to be killed. They were having target. In fact, in the evening, when these officers would meet at their military club, they would exchange numbers. How many did you kill? How many did you kill? And somebody would be very apologetic. Oh, sir, you killed 28. I only could kill 10. These are human beings we are talking about. And none of these people got punished. None of them. They are still probably enjoying their pensions, most likely in Canada or in the United States, right here in my backyard. The Pakistani army engaged in deliberate killing of civilians, targeting Hindu students, and this was called as a cleansing process. At that time, Hindus were about 10% of the population. I think that is incorrect. At the time of partition, it was 32%. Okay, during partition, about 10% were killed or left. Hindus I'm talking about. So it came down to 22. So this number I'm not 100% sure. I would say it was 22% at that point of time. 10 million Hindus fled from there. Since then, there has been forcible conversion, women being picked up and forcibly converted into Islam. This is the same story that has been happening in West Pakistan, to a lesser extent in Bangladesh. But now all these things are beginning to come out as they are trying to go full speed to try and effect another radical Islamic state in the form of Bangladesh. Probably they'll call it Islam Desh or something bullshit like that. Anyway, so the US directorate, the US consulate in Dhaka was very concerned with what was happening. As early as the 28th of March, a report went from the consulate to Washington, D.C., saying, "We are mute and horrified witnesses to a reign of terror unleashed by the Pakistani military." And during the following week, the Consulate General reported that army was setting houses on fire and shooting people as they emerged from the burning buildings, and that the army had killed a large number of unarmed students at Dhaka University. And then, see, the thing was, the response to that from United States was do nothing. In fact, they were saying the other way around, as if the Pakistani army was being attacked. So the consulate officials on the 6th of April, most of the members of the consulate, they signed a dissent channel message to Washington. They said that the United States government should condemn the indiscriminate killings of the populace of East Pakistan by the army. You know what happened? On 12th of April, there's a handwritten note by Richard Nixon saying, leave 𝗖𝗂𝘁𝘃 alone. I mean, it's like this guy was his drinking buddy or golfing partner. See, this is what happens when you have treaties like Seattle and CENTO, where the US kept giving the money to West Pakistan in the name of defending the West Pakistanis, to make sure that the oil interests in the Middle East were preserved and that Russia would not get its access to a warm water port. This is a big balderdash that was put out by the British in 1840s. They called it the Great Game, that the game was between the then British Empire and the growing Russian Empire. And the British, because they own much of the oil assets in Iran, Iraq, this, that, all the stuff, they were basically, while there was an Ottoman Empire, it was on the decline. And by the end of First World War, they completely collapsed and everything came into the hands of the British. So until 1947, they kept this thing up, saying that there was a great game being played by the Soviet, not Soviet, that time it was the Russian army, to try and get a warm water port. And they said it was going to be Karachi, and depending on who you listen to, various versions were given. Unfortunately, by the time independence came along, United Kingdom was bankrupt, and this great game, the owners changed. From Great Britain, it became the United States, which continues to play this great game. That is why in 1979, when Russia came into occupied Afghanistan, many say it was not to get a warm water port. Afghanistan didn't have a port. Why would they then march into Afghanistan? If they wanted to, they could have marched into Pakistan itself. See, people don't take a moment back to reflect on why the United States had to enter that war. Afghanistan was a landlocked mass. Maybe they thought that after Afghanistan, Russia would then move into Pakistan. I don't know, but lot of BS, and even to this day, that great game is still going on. Except that now more bigger powers are also coming up, like for example China and India. So people are like, maybe there is more to it than what is going on. Mascarenhas recounted officers discussing daily killing, like I told you, right? And the military actions were premeditated. They had lists of individuals marked off for elimination, and many Dhaka neighborhoods which had Hindus. Even today, there are some neighborhoods in Dhaka which have substantial number of Hindus. They were targeted. And fortunately, the other 9 journalists told and wrote what the army told them to do. Only it was Mascarenhas who decided to not print anything in West Pakistan, but he managed to escape to London. He also managed to make sure that his family, his wife and his 5 children, they made it into London, to United Kingdom safely. And the day after that is when the story published. If it was not for him, this Roman Catholic from Goa, you would never have known the level of atrocities that were committed. Prime Minister Indira Gandhi was deeply moved by the article, inspiring her diplomatic campaigns in Europe and Moscow to prepare for India's intervention in East Pakistan. At that point of time, India was still not ready. In fact, if you watch some of the interviews with Sam Manekshaw, he recounts how Indira Gandhi in March said, I want you to go into Bangladesh for war. And then he said, well, if I have to do it today, I would need all the trains, because I need to move equipment, men, machines, everything to the border. And are you prepared to not take off all the harvest grains that are just out ready to be transported? Would you be able to give me all the trains? So that paused her, and then he thought maybe she'll ask him to step down and find a more pliant chief of army. But luckily, reason prevailed, and she waited till December, and it's only then that the Indian army moved in. In the meantime, what was Indira Gandhi doing? Between March and December, she was garnering international support for Bangladesh's independence. She secured the Indo-Soviet Treaty of Peace, Friendship and Cooperation in August 1971. That's where she got the thing that the Russians will, the USSR, Soviet, right? Soviet is Soviet Russia, USSR. That USSR would have the back of India in case the United States decides to support East Pakistan. In fact, at that point of time, Pakistan was trying to enable a rapprochement between China and the United States. So it was considered a key player. Maybe that is why Nixon said, "Don't disturb or don't say anything to Yahya Khan at this point of time." So this treaty acted as a deterrent to potential interventions by China and the US. I have a feeling China didn't interfere because there was this general called Bai Ling who was trying to overthrow Mao, and Mao was trying to protect his own throne. And in fact, I think towards somewhere in 1971, I don't remember the exact date, Bai Ling tried to escape to Manchuria no, not Manchuria, Mongolia, I think, and his plane was shot down. And that's when Mao breathed a sigh of relief. But then he didn't last long after that. I think he died in, if I remember correctly, 1976. This was 71, right? So China didn't really, show any signs that it was going to support Pakistan there. Now, the Indian army started providing training, guns, and logistical support to the Mukti Bahini, the Bengali liberation forces. I'm afraid the similar situation is going to happen now if this thing continues, because you're going to start drawing parallels. Now, the Mukti Bahini fighters were allowed to use Indian territory for organizing their resistance against the Pak army. Guess what? Chattogram is very close to the border. The same thing could repeat itself. Mascarenhas' article is considered one of the most influential pieces of South Asian journalism in the last 50 years. And I told you about how it was published a day after his family relocated safely to London. Needless to say, Pakistan labeled him a traitor and accused him of being an Indian agent while denying the reported atrocities. His article played a crucial role in exposing the genocide to the world, helping Bangladesh gain international support for its independence. In fact, there are a couple of interviews of Mujibur Rahman. He got freed after that and he fled to London. And there are some press conferences of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman in London in YouTube. You can go and take a look at it. And he'll be like having a pipe and he'll be puffing consistently. You can see the nervousness in his face. Is he going to be bumped off in the press conference and so on and so forth? And Mascarenhas is hailed for his integrity and courage, ensuring the truth of the genocide reaches the global stage. So now let us fast forward to the present. Why the need for Hindu Desh? Today, there are close to 8% Hindus still left in Bangladesh. That constitutes about 13.1 million individuals. The population of Bangladesh is around 175 million or something thereabouts now. So you can do the math. The community has faced challenges, including political marginalization and violence. Show me one Hindu minister in Sheikh Hasina's government. Do you find one? You can find them scattered here and there, but nobody has risen to the position of like a chief justice or a vice chancellor of a university. Nothing of that sort. Active discrimination. And what do the Muslims of India say? Oh, we are being discriminated against. Bullshit. These people have been given horns on their heads and been carried around on pallaki. Time they walk the walk with everybody else. Now, there is this Vested Property Act. This was passed to disenfranchise or grab some of the properties of Hindus in Bangladesh. Do look it up. It's also given as one of the references. So the Hindus are consistently facing active discrimination. So I'm not very I'm not very hopeful that even if Trump comes back and he orders that Sheikh Hasina be reinstated, and US does that too, after having gone into the Pottery Barn store and broken just about every piece of crockery that was there, things won't change for the Hindus. The Hindus are going to continue to suffer, and this is where my fear is. Now the Hindus are beginning to form themselves, organize themselves. They are going to be probably thinking about forming a political party also, and they will start fighting for their rights. In the meantime, my good friend Major General 𝗣𝗂𝗍, G.D. 𝗣𝗑𝗍, has put this map out as a possible solution for Hindu Desh and Bangladesh, and I'm kind of agreeing with this. Also, what needs to happen is, you may not get this thing in the exact same shape and form, but you can see that small tip hanging from Tripura, and from there you can just, I think they will just draw a line to the ocean, so that the Chattogram area will also become part of India. So what will happen is, you'll have two parts, but both will have Indian borders. So it will not be like East Pakistan and West Pakistan. Something like this is going to happen. Whether it's going to happen in the time frame that we are thinking or not, we don't know. But Hindu Desh is becoming more and more a reality. I'm going to take a quick look at all the chat messages to see if there are any questions from you folks before we wind this thing down. I'm sorry it took a little longer than I thought, but this story is something that many of us need to be told. Okay. Manavsan says, Peter Haas, the former US ambassador, now leads a consortium doing a gas deal with the new government in Dhaka. Deep State wants to resurrect the Cold War as much as possible, but time cannot be reversed. Yes, I've seen that. In fact, Electra something, I think it's an energy company, and they are also trying to provide some electricity to them. I don't know where they're going to produce it from. Okay, Manavsan, same thing again. Oh, you've done it 3-4 times, Manov-san. Lifestyle for environment. Muslims saved from Muslims. 1986, Sinhalese saved from Tamils by military action. And what is happening now? Chai pe charcha and just no action. Hindus are safer in Nepal more than anywhere else. Come on now. I mean, it's these people, their mindset needs to change. I don't know who will change that. Sunil Nair says, how can someone show so much ingratitude like Bangladeshi Muslims? They were saved from mass murder and rape by Pakistani Punjabis in 1971. Does their conscience not bite? Well, these people are gone, right? That generation is gone. That was 50 years ago. Hey, let me ask you a counter question. 10 years, Modi has been pampering the minorities in India. How many minorities have voted for Modi, for BJP? Right? So there has been a long-standing brainwashing that has taken place. Many people are not given to original thought. They can't think, they can't think for themselves. They have become slaves to somebody else telling them what needs to be done, especially come election time. This is a huge problem for the populace of India, because they need to be a little bit selfish. What's in it for me? Who can do the best for me? And then vote for that party and that person. Not just listen to the local parish, the local padre or local mullah. These people are all, anyway, I don't have a lot of respect for them. Do you see any head pujari in any temple telling you should vote for this person or that person? If the Hindu, the majority there, can stay apolitical, come to temple to pray and go to church to pray and go home, go to a mosque to pray and go home. Why do you want to discuss politics? Shanmuga Sundaram Rajeshwaran. Hindus are very polite and good human beings. It's in our blood and DNA, so don't need to worry. For those who commit these crimes, insane, inhuman act will get played by their karmas. You have to be alive, right? These people want to kill you. These are all new twists from the in the name of Islam. That's not true. Islam doesn't say that. But who's going to go and tell them that your Quran is wrong? You quote one instance from what happened in the life of Prophet Muhammad, and 10 people are dead just like that. Sab tan se juda. Billionaire Defender wants to know, do you think India would wait till Donald Trump comes in so that India doesn't get sanctioned? No, I don't know what India is waiting for. I really don't know. I mean, I also don't know what India can do, right? I mean, you can't just go in. You may be able to do some sort of a counter force, like what happened in Mukti Bahani. Mukti Bahani was created, formed to train to fight the Pakistani forces. In fact, there are accounts in that story by Mascarenhas where there are areas where the Pakistani army was afraid to go because the opposition was well entrenched. They would blow up bridges so the Pakistani army couldn't chase them. And when they tried to build temporary bridges, they would take pot shots and wipe out the entire contingent. A lot of things happened. The counterinsurgency, counter fighting did happen in some places, not all. So, unfortunately, what is this? What is this? Truth Speaker 12. You have become too confident in your ability, forgetting the past. You are just a bunch of cowards. When you face the might of Muslims, Hindus are no match. Oh, another delusional bastard. Okay. All right. So I'm beginning to lose respect. This decline of Islam is very much around the cards, and many of people are just going to just walk away from this barbaric religion. When that's going to happen, when the tipping point is going to be reached, I don't know, but I expect one of these 57 countries to completely go under and change religion. Maybe that will basically open the eyes of many other countries and say, look, this is a no hope religion. I hope that happens, but more importantly, right now, my fears are with the 13.1 million Hindus still living in Bangladesh, and they shouldn't migrate from there. They need to stand and fight there and get their own land. I think that's not something that is going to be happening. I mean, that's not unreal. It is realistic. It is going to happen, and the people are working towards that resolution. You just have to be a little bit patient. In the meantime, learn to defend yourselves. That's all I can say. Words, people, many of you may be getting requests to help fund the effort in Bangladesh. You know, relief organizations and things like that. ISKCON itself. ISKCON is still doing a lot of kitchens, and because sometimes they just come and burn your house. What are you going to do? These people are too poor to afford to go and repair it on their own. So you need to do some of these things. So please do help wherever, whichever way you can. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to click on the bell button for notifications. Namaskar.